Chapter 1. If you believe fate can be cruel and has a twisted sense of humor, hit subscribe. My name's Lila Hart, 31, owner of Petal and Thorn, a struggling flower shop sandwiched between a vape bar and a psychic who keeps trying to sell me curse protection bundles. I'm not cursed. I'm just a florist with student loans, anxiety, and a tendency to deliver to clients who think costume party means live-action supernatural soap opera. For 3 years, I've been supplying floral arrangements to the city's elite, or as I call them, the Lunatic LARP League. They're rich, weird, and obsessed with pack hierarchies. They pay in cash, tip in gold coins sometimes, and once one of them sniffed me. Like full inhale, eyes rolling back, kind of sniffed. I should have reported it, but they're good customers, and rent doesn't pay itself. So when I got a rush order from Draven Estate for a midnight event of great significance, I didn't ask questions. I loaded my van with night-blooming jasmine, white roses, and enough eucalyptus to fumigate a church. What I didn't know was that this event was an alpha's coronation, and the first time fate decided to laugh directly in my face. By the time I reached the mansion, the sky was the color of melted silver. The estate looked like something out of a Gothic fever dream: stone arches, torchlight, and a gate that literally hummed when it opened. I half expected a director to yell, "Cut!" Inside, people, or whatever they were, moved with predator grace. Everyone was too tall, too beautiful, and way too quiet. Their eyes reflected light like cats. I told myself they were contacts. I told myself a lot of things that night. "Delivery for, Mr. Draven?" I stammered, holding my clipboard like a shield. The butler didn't blink. "He's expecting you." "The ballroom, please ballroom, because of course." I pushed my cart down marble halls that smelled like cedar and moonlight. The music wasn't from speakers, it vibrated through the air, something primal. My pulse started matching it. My fingers shook as I adjusted a vase. Then I felt it. That moment when the air changes, heavy and electric. He stepped out of the shadows like the lead in every bad decision I'd ever made. Lucian Draven, tall, broad shoulders, black suit tailored like sin, eyes the color of winter storms. He didn't look at me like a man greeting a delivery girl. He looked at me like a predator recognizing prey, or a mate. "Who are you?" His voice was low, rough, almost dangerous. Lila. Flowers." I pointed to my cart like that, explained my existence. "You ordered 50 white arrangements. Congratulations on whatever this is." His gaze dragged over me, slow and assessing. "You smell different." "Thanks," I showered. He smiled, sharp and unsettling. "You're not one of us, are you?" "Define us." He stepped closer until I could count the gold flecks in his irises. "You don't know, do you?" "Know what?" He didn't answer. He just took a deep breath like he was trying to memorize my scent. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Stay for the ceremony." "Sorry, I have a Netflix date with my cat." "Stay," he repeated, and my knees forgot their purpose. Something in his tone rooted me to the floor. That's how I ended up sipping champagne I couldn't afford in a mansion I didn't belong in, surrounded by people who occasionally growled. The ceremony itself was a blur of ancient words and silver blades. When it ended, Lucian found me again. "You shouldn't be here," he said, but there was no heat in it. More like regret. "Yeah, I've gathered that between the swords and the sniffing." Then he smiled, actually smiled, and I felt something crack open inside me. He looked both lonely and lethal, like a storm in a suit. And when he asked me to dance, I said yes, because apparently I have no survival instinct. His hand fit against my waist like we'd done this 100 times in another life. His voice rumbled against my skin when he whispered, "You sure you're human?" "Pretty sure." "Unless Starbucks is secretly selling blood now." He laughed, and it was the kind of laugh that makes you forget your own name. One song turned into 2, then into a walk under the moonlit garden, jasmine and danger in the air. And by dawn, I'd done something profoundly stupid. I'd spent the night with him. The next morning, he was gone. Just a note on silk stationery. "Forgive me. I thought you were one of us. I didn't see him again for weeks. Not until the morning sickness started. And that's when everything got worse. Would you tell him the truth? Or run before the wolves come knocking? Drop it below." Chapter 2. You ever try explaining to your gynecologist that your one-night stand might have been a wolf? No? Lucky you, because I did. And Dr. Melinda Patel now greets me like I'm a walking case study titled Delusion in Urban Florists. The test results came back exactly how my gut feared and my bank account dreaded. Positive, pregnant, 6 weeks. I stared at the little pink line like it was a death sentence written in watercolor. "Congratulations," the nurse said. I said, "Oh, hell no." That night, I went home to my cramped apartment above the shop. My cat, Persephone, half demon, half furball, judged me from her perch as I whispered into the dark, "He used protection." I saw it. Then I remembered the weird warmth after. The way my skin had shimmered faintly where his hands touched me. Magic? Hallucination? Bad champagne? Whatever it wasn't normal. For days, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe Lucian Draven was just some rich eccentric with a thing for cryptic notes and animal-themed roleplay. Until the flowers started dying. Not all of them. Just the white roses I'd used for his event. Their petals wilted overnight. Their stems turned black. And when I touched one, a low hum pulsed up my fingers, like static or power. The next morning, the bell above my shop door chimed. I didn't even look up. "We're closed for restock." A voice I hadn't heard in weeks said softly, "Lila." My heart went nuclear. Lucian stood there in a charcoal coat, rain dripping from his hair, his eyes wild and desperate. It took everything in me not to throw a vase at his face, or worse, kiss him. "What are you doing here?" I snapped, hiding my shaking hands behind the counter. He took a step closer. "I didn't know." "About you. About that night. Well, surprise." "I'm human, not one of your furry aristocrats." Something flickered in his expression. Shame, awe, maybe fear. "You shouldn't have survived the bond," he said quietly. I blinked. The what now? He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. When an alpha takes a mate, even temporarily, his power seeps into her. It's instinctual. But you're human. Your body shouldn't have tolerated it. I laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. Well, my body's apparently overachieving because there's something else growing too. His eyes widened. "You're pregnant," I said flatly. "You're welcome." He froze. The air changed again, heavy and humming. Then he whispered, "It's impossible." I crossed my arms. That's what my high school guidance counselor said about my business degree, but here we are. He paced like a caged storm, muttering about hybrid viability and ancestral bindings. I picked up a dying rose and waved it. "Focus, Twilight." "What does this mean for me?" Lucian's jaw tightened. "It means my pack will see you as a threat. My former Luna, Serena, will see you as a target." "Former Luna?" I asked, stomach dropping. "You mean ex-wife or ex-alpha Barbie?" His silence said everything. Of course. He wasn't just an alpha, he was an available alpha, with a territorial, high-ranking, possibly psychotic ex. "Fantastic," I muttered. "My baby's first lullaby will be a restraining order." Lucian moved fast, 1 second across the room, the next standing so close I could feel his heat. "I'll protect you, Lila," I scoffed. "From what? Divorce lawyers with fangs?" He didn't smile this time. "From wolves who follow orders without mercy." That's when the lights flickered. Persephone hissed, tail puffing up like a bottle brush. Lucian went rigid. "They've found you." "Them?" He grabbed my wrist, pulling me behind the counter. "Stay low." The shop door exploded inward. 3 men in dark coats stalked through the smoke, except they weren't men. Not really. Their eyes glowed amber. Their teeth lengthened as they sniffed the air. "Alpha Draven," one growled, voice distorted. "Serena sends her regards." Lucian stepped forward, shedding his coat, power rolling off him like a physical force. His pupils blew wide, silver edging his irises. She should have sent an army. And just like that, he shifted. Not fully, but enough that his silhouette rippled, bones reshaping under his skin, claws gleaming under the flickering light. I, a simple florist, crouched behind a counter clutching pruning shears like an idiot. It was fast, violent, beautiful. The kind of thing that sears itself into your brain. 1 minute, the intruders were advancing. The next, they were flying backward, crashing through display cases and landing unconscious among broken vases and shattered roses. Lucian stood panting, half-shifted, eyes still glowing. Blood, not his, dripped from his knuckles. I swallowed. "You owe me about $700 in merchandise." He turned toward me, expression feral soft. "We need to go." "Go? I have a business to run." He grabbed my hand. "You have a life to keep." And just like that, we were in his car, an all-black beast of a vehicle that purred more than it roared. My shop disappeared in the rear view, a smear of red and broken glass. I didn't know whether to cry or throw up, maybe both. "Where are we going?" I asked finally, voice small. "To the only safe place I know," he said. "The pack stronghold," I groaned. "So, the wolves' den." "Great. Love that for me." He shot me a side glance. "You still don't believe what I am?" "Oh, I believe it now," I said, clutching my seatbelt. "I just wish my brain didn't." Lucian's jaw flexed. "Lila, that child you carry, our child, is more than a miracle. It's a breach between worlds." I stared out the window. City lights blurred into gold streaks. "You make it sound like a prophecy." "It might be," he said softly, "and Serena won't stop until it's undone." When we reached the outskirts of the forest, the road turned to gravel. Fog rolled thick as milk. The car stopped before an iron gate etched with runes that glowed faintly blue. Lucian leaned toward a scanner. The gate opened with a sound like thunder. My breath hitched. "Please tell me there's Wi-Fi in there." He smirked. "Depends." "Do you count spirit links?" I sighed. I went to deliver roses, not a family tree. Chapter 3. If you've never been driven into a forest that breathes back at you, count your blessings and your cell bars. I had one. Bar, not blessing. The road sliced through pines so tall they knitted the sky shut. The fog tasted like metal, like I'd licked a battery. Somewhere far off, something howled with a voice that knew my name and didn't like it. Lucian's stronghold wasn't a cabin. It was a fortress crouched in moonlight, dark stone, arrow-slit windows, and a wide courtyard paved in slate veined like old ice. Torches flared blue-white as we rolled in, as if the night took a breath when the Alpha returned. Men and women turned their heads in eerie unison. Some bowed, some sniffed. One small boy peeked from behind a pillar and grinned, like seeing monsters was normal, like this was home. "Stay close," Lucian murmured, opening my door. His voice wasn't a suggestion. It was an oath being spoken out loud. I stepped out, and the ground thrummed under my shoes. The air smelled like cedar and cold rivers and the copper shadow of old blood. Vines crawled along the inner walls, heavy with pale moon roses I'd never seen in any catalog. Their petals caught the torchlight and threw it back as silver. A tall woman approached first, all steel spine and dark braid. "Alpha." She flicked a clinical gaze over me, like I was an unapproved shipment. "This is her?" "Lila," Lucian said, as if the name could shield me. "This is Marion, my beta." "She keeps the walls standing." "Someone has to," Marion said. "To me, rules. You don't leave the inner keep alone. You don't open doors that sing. If something smiles and its eyes don't, you turn around. If you smell berries where there are none, come find me immediately." "Cool, cool," I said. "Just so we're clear, if I smell berries, I leave my body." Marian's mouth did a microscopic twitch. Approval? A threat? Unclear. They led me through a vaulted hall lined with banners, crimson and white, claw marks stitched in silver thread. We passed a table of weapons. Some were forged from black steel. Some looked like they'd been grown. Bone handles, thorned guards. One chain lay coiled like a sleeping snake. It glittered with a silver so bright it hurt to look at. Lucian noticed me staring. "Never touch silver," he said softly. "It cuts more than flesh." We entered a chamber that smelled like rain and old oaths. At its center, a circular table, polished until it held the moon twice over. Around it sat a half-dozen people, all too still, too beautiful in that predatory way. Council. I knew it in my bones. A woman lounged in the high-backed chair nearest the hearth. She wore deep green silk that made her skin glow like porcelain dipped in envy. Jewels dripped from her ears, sharp as icicles. When she smiled, all the torches guttered. "Lucian," she purred, like the syllables tasted expensive. "You brought a souvenir." She didn't need an introduction. My stomach knew before my brain. Serena, former Luna, present problem. "Serena," Lucian said, flat as a blade, "you sent wolves into a human district." "Alleged wolves," she said, inspecting her nails. "You know I never send anything I can't call back." "They wore your crest," Marian said, "and bled your scent." Serena's eyes slid to me. "How quaint," she murmured. "A florist." "You always did like things that wilt. I make things bloom, actually," I said before common sense could gag me. Her gaze sharpened, pleased that I'd bared my throat. "Do you?" "Let's see." The air flexed. Sound died. Torches leaned toward her without wind. I felt pressure, like a cold hand closing around my lungs. The moon roses through the windows shivered and shed a dusting of silver pollen. My pulse sprinted. My baby did a tiny somersault of objection. Lucian reached for me, but Marian moved first, sliding a carved token across the table. It clicked as it spun to a stop, a disc of dark wood branded with a symbol, 3 claws through a circle of white. "Enough," Marian said. "We are not animals in front of a hearth." Serena's smile widened. "Speak for yourself." She rose without ripple and crossed to me. No one stopped her. Her perfume was expensive green, fig and poison and church money. Her eyes were a summer lake if someone had poured ink into it. Up close, I saw the seam of a scar along her collarbone. No one gets to the top without teeth marks. "You caused a stir," she said, tone almost confidential. "The pack loves a fairy tale. Alpha beds mysterious beauty at his coronation. Wakes to find she's gone, leaves a note like a poem. But here you are again, an epilogue no one ordered." "Epilogues sell books," I said. "Ask any indie author." She leaned in, voice a needle. "Your scent is wrong." "Yeah, I get that a lot." "Not human, not ours, thin, like paper soaked in rain." She inhaled at my throat, slow. "But there's a thread of him in you." "A little." Her eyes dipped with obscene intimacy. Spark Lucian's growl was a quake. "Serena." She lifted one sculpted brow. "Relax. I'm merely confirming the rumor." "What rumor?" I asked, even as my bones knew. "That you're carrying what cannot be carried," she said, as if we were discussing a failed soufflé. "Historically, humans and alphas don't make future alphas. They make graves." Silence flooded the room, thick, helpless, hating. It should have broken me, it didn't. It made something hot and bright spit in my chest. "Historically, men didn't wash their hands," I said. "We adapt." Serena's eyes flicked to the silver chain on the weapons table. In one casual movement, she palmed it and looped it like ribbon. "Let's test your durability." "Serena," Marian said. Warning sheathed in silk. "Don't." "Why?" Serena's voice went airy. "It's only silver. If she's what you say, she'll faint at a flirt." She flicked the chain out, quick as a striking eel, and laid it across my forearm. Pain didn't come. Instead, my skin lit. Faint, pearly, as if milk had been poured under it. The The chain hissed, the way oil complains in a hot pan. Something in me said mine, and pushed. The silver went dull. Then it flaked, peeling like sunburn, leaving ash that scattered across the flagstones. Everyone stared. Marion's head tilted, a scientist smelling lightning. Lucian's eyes turned shocked wolf silver, throat working around the word he didn't say out loud. Serena went very, very still. "Cute trick," she said finally, brittle as spun sugar. "Parlor magic." I swallowed, arm buzzing where the chain had died. "I warned you." I make things bloom as if cued. The moon roses that lined the arrow slits unfurled all at once, petals spilling like a held breath released. Their scent flooded the chamber, clean, wild, a new sheet on a summer bed. The vines stirred, green muscle flexing. A tendril slithered inside and curled around my wrist like a bracelet, not binding, just claiming. Serena's smile cracked. "You think this makes you Luna?" "I think it makes me hard to kill," I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised all of us, including me. Lucian stepped forward, putting his body between us. He didn't touch me like he knew if he did I'd combust, but his presence closed around me like a coat. "The council will convene in the morning," he said. "For tonight Lila stays in the White Wing." Warded doors. Guard rotation doubled, Serena's lashes lowered. "Afraid of shadows, Alpha?" "I'm afraid of what you do with them," he said. Even, deadly, the undernote of a promise. She resettled in her chair, silk whispering like snakes. "By all means. Lock the florist up with your relics." She toyed with a ring, a sickle of diamond. "Just remember, wolves aren't your only problem. Humans gossip. Police ask questions. Your little shop made a noise tonight, not the kind money silences." A flicker of panic licked me. My shop. My life's thin little backbone. "Persephone, my cat." "Already retrieved," Marion said. "She terrorized 3 guards and is currently asleep on the Alpha's pillow." "Good," I said faintly. "She's a Democrat." No one laughed. Tough crowd. Lucian steered me out. In the hall, the air felt looser, like the rooms behind us had been holding their breath. The White Wing lived up to its name. Pale stone, whitewashed beams, narrow windows that let silver spill like quiet water. The guest chamber smelled faintly of rosemary and old paper. "Serena doesn't bluff," I said, once the door clicked shut and 2 guards took their posts outside. "She'll come again." Harder, I know. He watched me as if the seeing hurt. "We have a healer. He'll monitor you and the child, whatever you did to that chain." "I didn't do anything," I said. "It happened." I stared at my arm, smooth as ever. No burn, not even a mark. "Maybe the baby did it." The idea shot through the room like a meteor. For a second, Lucian smiled. Not the weapon smile he used at court. Something softer, incredulous, younger. "Our child," he said, reverent as church. I swallowed around the wildness in my chest. "Do your people have prophecies about this? Because this feels like the part where we find a scroll written in dramatic blood." Lucian's gaze ticked toward the far wall, toward a locked cabinet carved with runes. "There are always prophecies," he said. "And there are always those who twist them." He opened the cabinet with a key he wore on a black cord. Inside lay objects that hummed even before he touched them. A knife with a hilt wrapped in faded crimson ribbon. A leather-bound book slashed with claw marks. A scroll tube sealed with white wax stamped by 3 intersecting crescents. He brought the scroll to the table and broke the seal. The wax cracked with the tiny scream of old things. He unrolled it. The ink wasn't ink. It was brown-red, thin as a bad secret. He read aloud. "When the moon chooses flesh that is not ours, and silver turns to ash at her skin, the river changes its course. The winter breaks. The bond is rewritten." We stared at each other. It was absurd and frightening and weirdly intimate, like fate had texted us in all caps. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said, voice gone rough, "that your life was never small, and that mine will never be the same." Something in my chest hurt in a good way. I hated it. I wanted it. A soft thump interrupted us. Then another. A smile crept over Lucian's face that I'd never seen before, unguarded, stupidly fond. He opened the inner door. Persephone trotted out, tail high, a pale ribbon trailing from her mouth like she'd hunted a luxury scarf. She hopped onto the table and dropped it on the prophecy. The ribbon was attached to a small white envelope, thick and expensive. No postage, just my name in a precise, angular hand. Lila. My stomach went cold. Lucian and I exchanged a glance. He nodded. I slid a thumb under the flap. Inside, a square of paper perfumed with fig and something venomous. "You're in over your head, florist. Leave before dawn, or I'll bury your roots where even your wolves can't sniff them out." Serena's calling card, hand-delivered into the warded white wing. My heart did its unpleasant drum solo. I looked up at Lucian. "How?" "Shadows," he said tightly. "She has ways." I folded the note and set it on the table next to the blood ink prophecy and my cat, who was now cleaning her paws like she'd performed a public service. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't either. "I'm not leaving." His breath hitched just once. "Lila, I didn't ask for this," I said. "I brought roses and got a war. But I'm not running. If this place wants to chew me, it can choke." He stared like I'd spoken a sacred tongue. Then he inclined his head, the smallest bow. "Then we'll make them regret trying." Outside, a wolf howled. Another answered. The vines along the window pulsed, slow heartbeat in green. The moon slid across stone like a blessing. "Lie down," he said after a moment. "I'll sit by the door." "Alpha," I scoffed. "Please, if anyone comes through that door, I'm sending the plants first." He almost laughed. "Rest, Lila." I did not rest. I lay awake feeling the baby turn like a coin flipping in a well, hearing the guards breathe, watching moonlight smear across the prophecy until the white looked like bone. Somewhere behind walls and oaths, Serena smiled, and somewhere else, deeper than fear, a seed cracked open. Chapter 4. When I woke, sunlight slanted through the narrow window like it was testing the room for survivors. Lucian was gone, but someone had left breakfast, a silver tray of fruit, black bread, and something that looked suspiciously like raw steak. For the record, I'm not a picky eater, but when the meat's still steaming, I draw the line. I was halfway through smuggling my toast under the napkin for Persephone when Marian appeared in the doorway. She didn't knock. Wolves, apparently, don't knock. "Good morning, florist." Her tone suggested she hadn't slept, and that she preferred I hadn't either. "Morning," I said, clutching my coffee like a weapon. "Is this the part where you tell me I'm the downfall of civilization?" She leaned against the frame, arms crossed. "No, that was last night's meeting. This is the part where I ask how you made silver burn." I shrugged. "Great skincare routine?" Marian didn't smile. "Serena's already twisting the council." "You embarrassed her in front of her pack. She won't rest until she erases that." "I noticed," I said. "She sent me a love letter via cat courier." Marian blinked. "A what?" "Never mind." She studied me for a long moment, then said quietly, "Lucian believes you're the fulfillment of the white seed prophecy." "Which is a myth," she said, "that the moon would choose a mortal to break the lineage curse." "Curse?" Marian hesitated like she wasn't supposed to say more, but then she exhaled. "Every alpha born of Draven bloodline dies before 40. Their strength consumes them. Their bonds break their hearts. Lucian's father went mad by 38. Serena's husband, Lucian's brother, didn't see 30. I set my coffee down. "You're saying he thinks I'm—" "What, the cure?" "Or the final straw," she said. "Depends on who you ask." Later, Lucian returned with a storm cloud expression, and the scent of blood trailing him. "You went somewhere," I said. "Please tell me it wasn't to kill your ex." He tossed his coat over a chair. "Not yet." "Not yet isn't as comforting as you think it is." He looked older somehow. tired in the way only immortals get tired, like it's layered through the centuries. "She's spreading lies," he said, "that you bewitched me, that you carry a thing born of shadow. The elders are demanding proof." "Proof?" He met my eyes. "Of the child. Of you? Oh, that's intimate." "They want to see the mark," he said. "What mark?" He stepped closer, careful as if nearing a wild animal. "When two souls bond, by choice or by accident, the moon leaves a trace." "You might have it," I opened my mouth to argue, and froze. Because there, faint under my collarbone, a silvery crescent shimmered just below the skin. I hadn't noticed before, but under the light it pulsed softly like a heartbeat. Lucian reached out, stopped an inch away. "May I?" "Depends. Does it bite?" "Only me," he murmured, and brushed his thumb across the mark. The contact was electric. My pulse stuttered. Heat climbed up my throat. For a second the air rippled like the world had taken a breath too deep. He exhaled sharply. "It's real." "Well, I didn't tattoo it in my sleep," I said. "What does it mean?" "That you're bound to me by the moon itself." "Oh, great," I said. "So fate's shipping us." "Perfect." That afternoon the healer arrived, a soft-spoken older man named Elias, whose hands smelled faintly of mint and iron. He checked my pulse, my eyes, my aura. Still don't know how that works. His conclusion? "The child's energy burns bright." Too bright. It is neither holy wolf nor human. It hums of the ancient Lucian tensed. Ancient what? Elias smiled sadly. "The kind that remembers before names." "Helpful," I muttered. When Elias left, I finally asked what had been gnawing at me since the night of the attack. "Lucian. Did you ever love her? Serena?" He didn't answer right away, just stared out the window where the forest swayed. "I did," he said eventually. "Once. Before duty turned her sharp. Before I learned that some hearts only beat for power. And now?" He looked back at me. "Now, she reminds me of everything I almost became." Night fell heavy. The White Wing's warded walls glowed faint blue. I tried to sleep, but the vines outside my window whispered, restless. At first I thought it was wind, until I heard it again. "Lila." I sat up, pulse hammering. "Okay," I whispered. "Talking plants." "Cool. Totally fine." The whisper came again, but this time it wasn't words. It was a pull. My feet hit the cold floor before my brain caught up. Outside, moonlight drenched the courtyard in silver. The vines along the wall were trembling, spreading, stretching toward the gate. And through them, a figure moved like smoke. Serena. Her gown shimmered green-black, eyes glinting like wet knives. "Can't sleep?" she asked sweetly. "I was just thinking of redecorating." "Maybe add some garlic wreaths." She smiled. "You think humor will save you?" "It's saved me from customer service jobs." Her gaze hardened. "Do you know what happens when a human bears wolf blood, Lila Hart? Their body breaks. Their mind burns out. You think you're special because the moon kissed you? The moon kisses everyone before it kills them." Something deep inside me flared. "You're lying." Serena tilted her head. "Then prove me wrong." She moved faster than I could blink, claws flashing. But before she touched me, the vines surged, green and furious, snaking around her wrists. She shrieked as the thorns bit into her skin, glowing white-hot. I stumbled back, breath ragged. My hands burned, not from pain but from light. It pulsed from my palms like molten glass. Lucian burst into the courtyard, eyes blazing. He froze when he saw me standing amid the vines, Serena writhing, the moonlight itself bending toward us. "Lila," he said carefully, "let her go." I blinked, and the vines obeyed. They fell away like tired snakes. Serena collapsed, panting, her silk torn and smoking. "You'll regret this," she hissed before vanishing into shadow, literally. One blink, gone. Lucian reached me in 2 strides. Are you hurt? No, I whispered. Just photosynthesizing, apparently. His hands hovered over mine. The moon's chosen you fully. The bloodline recognizes you now. I looked down at my palms, still faintly glowing. So, what am I? He smiled, slow and dangerous. Something new. Later, when the courtyard was empty and the adrenaline had finally faded, I stood by the roses that had saved me. Their petals were still luminous, brushing against my fingers like they knew me. The moon hung above, pale and amused. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled, not a threat this time, but a promise. And for the first time since this madness began, I didn't feel small. Chapter 5. If anyone tells you that living in a fortress full of werewolves gets easier, they're lying. By day, I was Lila Hart, florist on witness protection with a glowing chest tattoo. By night, I was that human who fried the Luna with vines. And apparently, both of those titles came with free surveillance. 2 warriors shadowed me everywhere, even to the bathroom. One pretended to study the ceiling tiles while I brushed my teeth. When I asked Lucien for privacy, he said, "They'd die for you." I told him I'd settle for them waiting outside the door. He didn't laugh, but his mouth twitched. Progress. At dusk, a bell tolled through the keep, low, bone deep, the kind of sound that makes windows flinch. Marion appeared, armor gleaming. Councils convened. Serena's petitioning for your exile. Already? I said. She heals fast. Marion's jaw flexed. She's claiming witchcraft. Says you corrupted the Alpha Bond. Please, I muttered. I can barely corrupt a houseplant. Still, I followed her down the winding stair to the great hall. Torches burned blue. The banners looked like tongues of shadow. The council sat in a crescent, Serena center stage in morning silk, as if she hadn't been the one trying to murder me less than 24 hours ago. Lucien stood behind me, radiating silent fury. His hand brushed my shoulder, a whisper of steady heat. Serena rose, voice syrup-sweet. We gather under the blood moon when truth hides for no one. I bring evidence of unnatural power in our midst. A guard carried forward a crystal vial, inside a single flake of the silver chain she'd used on me. It pulsed faintly. See? She said, turning to the elders. No human survives silver. Unless the magic inside her is darker than ours, I couldn't help it. I mean, or maybe your silver supplier's just bad quality. Try Etsy gasps rippled through the room. Serena's smile sharpened. She mocks our laws. Your laws tried to kill me, I said, stepping forward. Twice. An elder banged his staff. Enough. The blood moon demands balance. The accused will speak her truth great. Story time for the murder tribunal. I lifted my chin. My truth? I'm a florist from downtown. I met your alpha because he ordered flowers. I didn't seek him, summon him, or seduce him. He chose to dance with me, and the moon apparently thought that was romantic. A murmur swept the chamber. Lucien's gaze burned into me. Pride and fear in equal measure. Serena's eyes gleamed. And the child? What abomination grows in her womb? Before Lucien could move, I stepped closer to her dais. You want to talk abominations? You sent assassins after a pregnant woman. You bound yourself to a curse for power. At least my baby didn't choose violence as a hobby. The moonlight pouring through the skylight flared crimson. The elders began to chant softly, something old vibrating in my bones. The blood moon ritual. Judgment. A circle of light crawled across the floor and trapped me inside it. My skin prickled. My mark blazed under my collarbone. Hold her, Serena ordered. But the guards who stepped forward halted mid-stride. Their eyes went white, breath frosting in the air. Then the vines carved into the marble floor erupted in living green, curling around my feet, blooming tiny white roses that bled light. The hall gasped. Power rolled through me. Not rage, not fear, just certainty. The moon chose, I said quietly. You don't have to like it. Serena screamed, lunging forward, only for Lucian to catch her by the throat. Not hard enough to harm, just enough to remind her what kind of predator he was. "Touch her again," he growled, "and the council will need a new chairwoman." Elder Rowan rose, voice trembling. "Enough! The omen is clear. The moon marks this union as sanctioned. The prophecy of the white seed awakens." Another elder whispered, "Then the curse may break." Serena wrenched free, trembling with fury. "You'll damn us all. You think fate favors love stories? It eats them." She fled before anyone could stop her, the doors slamming shut behind her like thunderclaps. Hours later, Lucien found me in the corridor outside the council chamber. The blood moon still poured red through the windows, painting his skin like war. "You shouldn't have faced her alone," he said. I met his eyes. I wasn't alone. "The moon and I are apparently best friends forever now." He huffed something between a laugh and a groan. "You could have died." "I could have died 100 times since meeting you." "It's starting to feel like cardio." He stepped closer, hand cupping the side of my neck. The mark under my skin answered his touch, thrumming in sync with my pulse. "Say it," he murmured. "Say what?" "That you feel it too," I swallowed. "Fine." I feel it. Like a lightning rod that forgot to ask permission, his forehead rested against mine. "Then let me anchor it. Let me claim you properly, under the blood moon, so no council, no Luna can break what's already bound." "Claim me?" I said, trying for sarcasm but missing by a mile. "In our law, it's choice, not ownership. A vow. I give you my strength. You give me your trust." "Lucian, trust isn't my strong suit." "Then start with belief." Outside, wolves began to howl, one voice, then another, weaving into a song older than stone. My skin tingled. I looked up at him and said, "All right, Alpha. Let's make a scene." He knelt, not the dominance kind, the reverent kind. Blood moonlight spilled over us as he pressed his palm to the floor and whispered in the old tongue. His words sank into me, threading through the mark, through the child inside me, through the vines outside that trembled like witnesses. When I repeated the vow, the air ignited. Not fire, but energy, a current that hummed down the hall and up the towers. The curse that had chained his bloodline cracked like glass under heat. Lucian gasped. I caught him before he fell. For a heartbeat, our shadows merged, wolf and woman, human and myth, one shape bending the light. Then silence. He smiled weakly. "It's done." I brushed hair from his face. "You okay?" "Better than I've been in generations." We stumbled outside just before dawn. The sky blushed violet, the moon paling as if shy about what it had witnessed. Marian met us at the gate. "The curse mark on the archives just vanished," she said. "Whatever you did, it worked." Lucian's hand found mine. We did it. For the first time, I let myself lean into him. Great. Now maybe we can nap for a decade, but far off, beyond the forest line, a single wolf howl rose, low, angry, wrong. Marian's expression darkened. "That wasn't one of ours." Lucian's gaze sharpened toward the horizon. "Serena's not done." Chapter 6. If you ever think winning feels like a sunrise, you're half right, because right after it warms your skin, something always burns. For 2 whole days, the fortress buzzed with cautious celebration. Wolves who once glared at me now nodded in the corridors. Marian even brought me a tray of tea that didn't smell like poison. Lucian called it peace. I called it the eye of the storm, and I was right. I woke that night to the sound of thunder. Except the sky was clear. Then came the smell, smoke and blood. Persephone growled from the foot of my bed, fur on end. Lucian was gone. "Lucian!" My voice cracked the silence. No answer. Then a howl split the night, long, furious, and heartbreakingly familiar. "Serena!" I ran to the window. The forest glowed red at its edges. Flames clawed up the tree line, moving unnaturally fast like the fire had a grudge. When I tore the door open, 2 guards lay slumped in the hall, eyes glazed but breathing. The wards shimmered and fizzled out. She was here. By the time I reached the courtyard, chaos reigned. Wolves fought in the open, fur and flame, claws against shadow. Serena strode through the wreckage, her gown made of smoke, her eyes lit with bloodlight. She wasn't alone. Behind her came creatures I'd never seen. Half wolves, half something older, their howls distorted. The bloodline curse Lucian thought we'd broken had roots deeper than anyone guessed, and Serena had dug them up. She spotted me instantly. "There she is," she purred, voice echoing too wide, too deep. "The moon's mistake." I squared my shoulders. "You ever get tired of monologuing? Or is that just your cardio?" She laughed, a terrible, delighted sound. "You think you broke the curse? You only woke it. He's dying right now." My stomach turned to ice. "Liar!" She smiled and tossed something small and metallic. It hit the stones with a soft clink. Lucian's pendant, the key that opened the prophecy cabinet. I didn't think. I ran. I found him near the inner hall, half-shifted, one knee on the ground, blood seeping through his shirt. His veins glowed faint silver, like liquid moonlight eating him from the inside. "She bound me," he gasped. "The old bond. She called it back." "Don't move," I said, pressing my hands over his wound. "I can fix this." "You can't," he whispered. "You'll burn with me." "Then we burn together," I snapped. My palms glowed again, hotter than ever. Silver light poured through my fingers into his skin. The vines outside rattled, responding. Somewhere beyond the walls, the moon screamed through the clouds. Lucian grabbed my wrist weakly. "If you take it on yourself, shut up and let me be impressive." The light flared. For one blinding moment, the mark under my collarbone erupted, spilling brightness across the hall. Lucian gasped. The dark lines faded from his veins. But the energy didn't stop. It tore through me like wildfire. I screamed, half from pain, half from something primal waking. When it cleared, I was on my knees, gasping but alive. Lucian's wound was gone. The mark on my skin had changed, no longer a crescent but a full moon. The fortress trembled. Serena appeared in the doorway, hair wild, power bleeding from her fingertips. "You can't hold what isn't yours," she screamed. "Watch me," I said, standing. My voice didn't sound human anymore. It carried an echo, an ancient hum that silenced the battlefield. She lunged, claws met light. For a heartbeat, the world was just us, predator and prey, creation and destruction, locked in a dance too old for language. Then I felt it. The vines, the roses, the pulse of every living thing under the moon. I reached for it. It answered. A surge of green fire erupted between us, slamming Serena backward into the marble wall. When it faded, she was gone, her form scattering into ash that glimmered like falling stars. Silence. Then, slowly, the wolves stopped fighting. The flames withdrew, curling back into embers. The curse was done. For good this time. Lucian found me in the wreckage, covered in soot and moonlight. He fell to his knees beside me, hands shaking. "Lila," he whispered, "you shouldn't have survived that." "Yeah, I get that a lot." He laughed, weak, broken, real. "You're not just human anymore." "I'm not sure what I am." He cupped my face. Mine. And maybe it was the exhaustion, or the blood moon still glowing faint red over us. But for once, I didn't argue. Weeks later, the fortress was rebuilt. The roses I'd grown, those strange luminous vines, had spread through every corridor, sealing the cracks and purifying the air. The pack called them Luna's Thorn. Lucian ruled beside me, though he hated the word queen. I preferred florist with benefits. The baby kicked harder every day, strong, steady. The healer said they could already hear 2 heartbeats in sync with the moon. Sometimes I still dream of Serena's last words. "You can't hold what isn't yours." But when I wake to Lucian's arm draped across me, his wolf purring low, and our child's heartbeat thrumming like a promise, I know she was wrong. I didn't take this life. I grew it. Epilogue. If you told me a year ago I'd be living in a fortress surrounded by wolves, wearing a mark that glows when I'm emotional, and raising a child who hums to the moon, I'd have asked what brand of edibles you were on. Yet here we are. The blood moon rose again last night, low, soft, the color of old wine. The fortress didn't flinch this time. It bloomed. My vines have crept across every wall, weaving with the banners and curling around the spires. The wolves call it the living armor. Lucian calls it home. And me, I call it finally enough. Our daughter arrived at dawn. She didn't cry, she howled. The sound cracked the last clouds apart. Every wolf in the territory dropped to their knees. Even Marion swore her knees buckled, though she claims it was from the whiskey we made her drink after. She's small, shockingly small for the chaos she caused, but her eyes shimmer the way Lucian's do when the moon hits them just right. The healer said she bears 2 pulses, one of wolf, one of root. The first child of 2 worlds. Lucian named her Iris, after the flower that grows through stone. I told him that was poetic. He told me it was prophecy. I didn't argue. You pick your battles when your husband can literally talk to storms. Serena's ashes were scattered beyond the mountains, and from that black soil grew a field of silver roses. Every spring, the pack runs there to renew their oaths. They say it's cursed ground. I say it's fertilizer. The curse on the Draven line never returned. Wolves live longer now. The moon no longer demands blood for loyalty. Some whisper that I stole the moon's favor. Others say I married it. Either way, it listens when I laugh. Lucian found me in the garden tonight, kneeling beside a patch of jasmine, Iris asleep in his arms. The moonlight touched them both like an apology. "She looks like you," he said. I brushed dirt off my hands. "Poor thing," he smiled, slow and dangerous. "She's going to rule them all someday." "Let's teach her to tie her shoes first," I said. He laughed, and for a heartbeat the sound erased everything. War, blood, prophecy. Just 2 tired souls who somehow built something alive. Later, when the fortress slept, I walked through the halls barefoot, Persephone trailing behind like a small, judgmental guard. My vines glowed faintly under the moonlight, and I whispered to them the words I used to mutter when I was just a florist trying to survive another day. Grow even when they tell you you shouldn't. I paused at the open balcony, Iris's soft cry echoing faintly from the chamber below, and the moon winked through the clouds. Fate can be cruel, yes. But sometimes she plants you exactly where you're meant to bloom. If you made it this far, thank you for staying with me through every howl, heartbreak, and heartbeat. Your time, your ears, your hearts, they keep stories like this alive. So if you believe even the wrong love can bloom into something right, hit subscribe, share this with your pack, and meet me under the next moon. I'm Rene, and this was The Alpha's Wrong Human. Until next time, stay wild, stay kind, and never stop believing in impossible love.